Welcome to Missing Briefs. I'm Dominic Grew, the founder and owner of Elevate Business Coaching, a Boston-based business coaching and consulting firm specializing in teaching law firm owners and their lawyers how to build, manage, and grow successful practices.
And I'm Bob Furlong. I'm a certified exit planner here at the Bulfinch Group. I help law firms create programs to attract and retain their best associates, and this creates a clear path for the founders who eventually retire with grace.
So, Missing Briefs, what's it all about? Well, it's all about exploring and narrating the compelling stories or briefs of lawyers who have experienced significant challenges and successes in the business of law. What was their gap? What were they missing? What is it that they wish that they had known? Well, it's our pleasure to welcome today Lori Drayton. Lori is the founder and owner of Drayton Law and one of Massachusetts' leading landlord-tenant litigators. She has over 20 years of trial experience and represents major landlords and national management companies in summary process matters, civil actions, and complex housing litigation. She's been named among the top 50 women of law, is a super lawyer's rising star, lectures for MCLE, and if that was not enough, she also teaches at Suffolk University. Before private practice, Lori served as an ADA in Suffolk County, and she is the go-to attorney for high-stakes housing matters in this fine state of Massachusetts. Lori, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us.
So Lori, thanks for being on. I'd like to kind of take you back in time a little bit, back when you were maybe finishing up undergrad and thinking about your future. What was it that motivated you to become an attorney, to take that path?
Yeah, so I had decided very early on that I wanted to be an attorney. My parents tell me it was when I was in second grade, although I don't remember exactly. But I grew up in an area that had a decent amount of crime happening, and I observed that even from when I was a young child, and seeing the effect of crime on a community, on certain victims. It was really apparent to me. And so I had decided very early on that my goal, my dream job was to be a prosecutor in the district attorney's office. And so from that time up, right through college, taking criminal justice classes and communication, I knew that that was going to be my dream. And that was exactly the path that I took. Right when I graduated from law school, I was lucky enough to be my very first job as an assistant district attorney in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office.
Mm. Wow. So what you're doing now is kind of a right angle from that. How did you gravitate from being on the district attorney side to now doing landlord-tenant
Yeah,
legal work?
it's a great question. So what I noticed, I was in some of the busiest courts in the DA's office. So I was in Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury, trying cases every day and doing a great job with taking these offenders, whether it be for drug distribution or sexual assault cases, and taking them out and putting them into jail. And that was really rewarding. But we were seeing such little impact because there was another case and another case and another case, obviously.
Mm.
Um, but what I noticed was I wanted to make a bigger impact at that stage in my career. So I transitioned into housing law because it was a very similar job, surprisingly, in that the same drug distribution, the same sexual assault, those things were all happening. But instead of taking that person and putting them into jail, I was taking that person through an eviction action and removing them from very large multifamily communities. And the impact of that was something that I was very proud of because you have these large communities that I represent that are, 400, 500,
Mm.
600 units. And there's families there with young children. And by now removing that same criminal offender from these large multifamily communities, these communities became that much safer for people to call their home. And so that's kind of how I transitioned from the same type of criminal prosecution. I had the same police officers on the stand. I was literally the same case, but instead of putting someone in jail, instead we were making these communities a lot safer. So there's other aspects of housing law. Obviously, there's the non-payment, there's the disturbances, there's the dog bites, but that's kind of how I made my transition from the DA's office to housing law.
And that's interesting because I think people forget that there's all the people that have to live around those offenders and they have to
Yeah.
live in that environment, raise their kids and want to have a safe place. And you're actually, I don't know, championing them. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, no child should wake up in the morning and see the SWAT team outside their apartment or, be, seeing these different people being taken out in handcuffs and things like that. So, trying to minimize the ability for these children to have to observe any type of criminal activity is something that we take a lot of pride in, to make these communities safer and a happy place to grow up in.
Wow.
Wow. That that's really helpful. And I love the way you put all of that together, right? You as a child, a second grader, observing the world, right? The impact community, the criminal system, the switch to impact the same players, but then in the housing environment. So rather than jail, it's eviction. It makes total sense the way that you put that all together. A number of transitions in there. I want to switch gears just a little bit, Lori, and just talk about the transition from, you were in the, the criminal, the DA, that whole system, housing, but the transition of when you decided that you were going to, put up your own shingle, make that leap into, I'll call it, private practice, if you like, and ask you, so what were some of the key challenges that you faced or that you face as you're building your law practice today?
Yeah, there was a time where I practiced for about 20 years before opening my own law firm. And I think that's something that's really important to have that
Mhm.
depth of experience. And during those 20 years, I cultivated relationships with some of the best property management companies and real estate investment trusts. I mean, we represent countrywide some of the most incredible clients. And when I ventured off on my own, I was incredibly reluctant to let anyone else be a part of that because
Mm.
my clients trusted me. So the effect of that was I was going to court all day, every day throughout the entire state. I'd start off my day in Boston, then go to Worcester, then go to Springfield, and I was on the road all day, every day, then finally making it back into the office around 5:30 or 6 from my last court, digging into all the phone calls and the pleadings, preparing for court the next day, and doing all of that. So it resulted in me working like 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours
Mm.
a day, every day. But I was terrified because my clients trusted me and I respected them so much for that. But I realized little by little that I couldn't do everything myself. So my biggest thing was creating a team of attorneys and staff that would be an extension of me, an extension of what my clients had grown to entrust me for. And fast forward now, I have the most incredible team of attorneys and staff. I mean, they are some of the smartest, most dedicated professionals that our clients trust in the same way that they trust me. Creating that team environment where we all work together. And I mean, the experience here of our attorneys ranges from anywhere between 10 and 20 years, and they are the best litigators and real estate attorneys. But that was definitely the hardest thing for me was, I guess, to delegate and to trust people with the relationships that meant everything to me.
Yeah, like you mentioned there, Laurie, that it really kind of came through the trust, right? You,
Mhm.
you 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 don't take for granted the trust of people, and that makes it hard to pass things over to others because the trust bond is with you, and you've developed that and had that and built that so long, and it's hard for many attorneys, but it sounds like you've done a great job of getting over that, and you're able probably, I'm imagining, to do more, to have a greater impact by having kind of negotiated that hurdle and got through it yourself, which is great.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Dominic. It's the breadth that you can take, the wider net that you can cast when you have an incredible team to support the mission that's important to you is
Yeah,
just so much greater.
yeah. And again, you talk passionately about your team, right? An incredible team. So it's not just you feel, I can tell you feel confident and passionate about the team that you have supporting it, which is really critical whenever, you're entrusting them. So it's awesome you've been able to thread that needle. Uh, I have a little bit of a different question at this time, and it's one that, if you could turn back the clock, if you when you think back on what you might have done differently, what would you have done differently, uh, with the benefit of hindsight?
I think about that sometimes, and strangely, my answer is nothing. I think my path is the exact path that I was meant to have.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough to have my dream job right out of law school and get that trial experience in the most meaningful ways. I mean, I had hundreds upon hundreds of trials before I went into private practice, something that most attorneys don't get a chance to have. And then I worked for two incredible firms and was able to build that client base so substantially. So by the time I finally had the confidence to create something of my own, Drayton Law, that I'm so proud of, every part of the process was a building block to get to where I am and what I was going for. So, there was certain hardships, definitely, but all of that just makes me grateful to where I am now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I used to have a boss, and he used to say to me, "You can't go forward looking back." And I always remember, and it's true. There is something to be learned by reflection and so on. But really, you need to be focused on the road ahead. So just a little bit of time, that's fine, and forward focus. But it's great. You said there, like, there's really nothing. Everything that happened was supposed to for a reason, and you learned from it, and it's all good. It's awesome.
What's really apparent to us, and I think obviously any viewer, is how passionate you are about your work, and that you're out to right wrongs and take care of people and make sure that they have a safe place to live and grow up in. And I think a lot of us don't even have any idea what that would be like to be in that environment, just on a normal level, but to make sure that people are not preying on people or taking advantage of them. I just think I don't know about you, Dom, but that it's really exceptional. So when we think in the future, when you're out of the law, or maybe you've gone to your reward, or sometimes I'll say you become that angel that we know you are, how do you want people to remember the impact that you had as a professional?
I love that question. So a lot of, other than just like the great legal work that we do, Drayton Law really supports the community. So for example, I've helped create two Lawyer for the Day programs at the housing courts, which creates pro bono services for attorneys or for landlords and tenants. I've also worked closely with the Greater Boston Real Estate Board in creating legislation to help to victims of domestic violence to make sure that they remain housed during certain times of crisis. I work with a lot of different charities, the YWCA, I do a lot of work with to help create some housing for their vulnerable population. And we do a lot of charities for here with the local Foxborough area for their schools and for youth sports and things like that. So I really like the impact of what we do above and beyond the law is kind of creating the community. And I kind of think that there is a second part of that, something that I struggled with as an attorney, and I know that it's very widespread throughout the profession, is that work-life balance. And that is as the entire construct of Drayton Law. So I have created a law firm that creates an environment for every attorney or staff member here to meet their career goals because that's something super important to everyone. But I don't allow them to sacrifice their family or who they want to be at home to do that. And that's something that I think people really struggle with in our profession. So, for example, everyone here is either coaching their youth sports. They leave a couple days a week to do baseball, or they never miss a career day at their child's school. Everyone here is really meeting their obligations and such a hard worker when they're here, but given every opportunity to have that work-life balance. My family is everything to me, and I'm so involved in my young children's lives. So creating that culture here is something that I'm super proud of that I hope stays for a very long time, well after, I've wrapped up my practice. And I'm just hoping little by little that people can start to see that you can truly have it all. And that's kind of the basis of our firm.
That's really great that you are that considerate about the people on your team. I'm sure they never want to go anywhere else and will stay there forever. And you probably have to have a waiting list of people that want to work with you. It's outstanding. Like so many attorneys have a hard time with the fact that they feel like they're working all the time. So I'm sure there are a number of people that will want to talk to you after they see this. And I think it's exceptional for you as a leader to be as that considerate of your team, which is really outstanding. So
Yeah.
so for those folks listening who may have questions about your practice area, what's the best way of them to get in touch with you?
So email is perfect. My email address is ldrayton@drayton.law, or my phone number, 508-618-7309. I'd love to speak with anyone with any questions on our area of law.
That's great. I'm sure you'll get a couple of calls after this. So
Lori, thanks for spending time with Bob and I today. It's been great learning about your story, how you talked about weaving all those different parts together. I'm really getting a sense of what's your law firm practice, what it's really all about, and it's really about it's about impact and community. And it's been great chatting with you. I appreciate you sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you've been listening today to Missing Briefs, where we unveil the untold business stories of lawyers, their triumphs and their trials. If you have an interesting story to tell about your own triumphs and trials of owning a law firm, or perhaps you know somebody else that does, please get in touch with us. I'm Dominic Grew,
and I'm Bob Furlong.
and until we meet again.